Hey there, welcome back. So, coming right off the last part, there was one little thing I mentioned that is the override animation controller that I've gone ahead and implemented really quickly. So you'll see in our mechanism animation interaction object, I have returned back to the open and close triggers because that's what my door um, animation state was using, which is what I used as the basis. The override is the exact same system in here, it just allows you to override which clips are being used. So since both of these states use the door open animation clip, I only need to replace it with the lever pull. And one of them is the uh, forward speed and the other one's the negative speed. So as long as you kind of have that interaction wired up the same way with your visual elements, like you're perfectly fine. And just to kind of demonstrate that, on my lever pivot, you can see I'm using the override controller here. And here we are with our lever working, just as expected. So one little thing I want to take care of is I need for an interactable to be able to trigger another interactable, right? And that's going to kind of lead into being able to build elevators and trapdoors or things like that, or light switches. You know, anything that might be triggered by a switch or standing on a pressure plate or button, like traps and things like that. Um, it's kind of a critical important, but that's also, it should be super simple, right? So what's going to happen here is we're going to have our interactable. Now, actually, so here's something to think about, right? So normally we have our interactable and it's going to be a animation interactable. Do I want to be able to have multiple interactables on the object? Like maybe I have one interactable that takes care of the animation and a second interactable that takes care of the actual action that's being executed. And those can both feed off of the same interaction check trigger. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, let's go ahead and allow multiple interactions to be on the same object. So going by that reasoning, we're going to create a new interaction, which is going to be a remote interaction. Now, let's go ahead and move these out of the way. I should make a code snippet to set this up. Is it under Tools? Code Snippet Manager. Whatever, I can take care of that later. But let's see here. So I need to have another interactable, right? However, if I remember correctly, Unity does not allow me to reference things by interface in the editor. Shoot, actually, this is a bit of a problem. Well, let's see how this spins up in the editor. Actually, this might be fine. Wait for Unity to finish updating its catalog. Bring in our remote interaction, and our interactable object is going to be our door, which is fine to start with. So what if our interactable object has more than one interaction on it? It would create kind of a feedback loop where we would need to specify the specific interaction that we want to trigger. But I mean, quite frankly, I don't know that I'll have a scenario like that yet, so I'm not gonna, lose sleep over it. Now, thankfully, we can grab things by interface through the get component mechanism. We just can't expose interfaces as editor parameters. Alright, so that should be okay. However, we do need to take a look at our player interaction controller, as well as the interaction check. So interaction check is going to get that one interactable on the object, and it's going to set the player's interaction controller to the one interaction, but we need this to support multiple. So we'll get components in parent. And the other thing we need is our interaction controller needs to support multiple interactions. And what's this guy do? This guy, when he's enabled, grabs that interaction's text and updates the text on the controller. On disabled, he resets that text, and on update, if they press the A button while this interaction is active, or rather, while it's enabled and not in progress, it calls interact, and we just need that to happen on all interactions. So interactable array interactions on enable. Let's go ahead and if there we go. We'll loop over the interactables that are provided. And we will Find the first one that has a text provided, and we'll use that text for the display. Done and done. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Update. Hmm. Actually, I want to slow this down a bit. I don't want to occupy the CPU too hard. On enable, invoke, repeating, check, and interact. Can interact. Yeah, I'll check that every half a second or so. We'll see how that feels. Can interact is going to set a boolean. And we'll go and trigger all the interactions for all the interactables that are associated with the controller at this time. Now, so what if they can interact and they press the button? This check hasn't yet taken place yet, but our interaction check has set the property. restrict access to set that property, and we'll invalidate the can interact every time it's changed. And on interact, we're going to immediately set can interact to false. Because our in progress is going to change, and I don't want to allow hitting the button multiple times, like right in a row, and triggering multiple interactions. Okay, so let's build, and we're going to get a few errors because we've changed some stuff. Okay. So this remote interaction is on the door, so we should see both of these trigger. Now I'm going to go ahead and put some logs here. And let's go ahead and see what happens. Tell you what happened. Whole lot of nothing. So, on enable, this dot invoke repeating can interact. If this interactables is not equal to null and length is greater than 0 for each one. If the item is null or it's in progress, then it's false. If we made it all the way through, then it's true. And that should actually have a return on it. I don't think I default. Well, in progress will default to false regardless. it's getting set over and over again. Hmm. And there we go. And just like a light switch, turn off the second switch and it reverses the usefulness of that switch, or the effect of that switch. All right. I would say that's mission complete. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I will catch you next time.